In this video, we'll have a look at determining VAT in the cash receipts journal. So let's start off with our first transaction, which happened on the 1st of the month. So we're dealing with a cash sales, and the sale was to the value of 2394. So let's determine which ledger accounts we are affecting. So we know that this was cash, so that automatically tells us that we're dealing with the bank account. The amount that went into the bank was, of course, 2394. Then we're dealing with sales, so this affects our sales account. And then the VAT portion that we need to work out, we need to determine whether this was VAT input or output, and then what the portion was of that amount. So, of course, the amount in our bank account is the amount including VAT. And then our sales account will then, of course, be excluding VAT. So because this was cash sales we made, we know that this is an outflow of a product or a service that we added value to. So when we add value to a service or a product, that means that we are liable to the revenue service for that VAT, and that then says that this is a VAT output. So we then go and work out the VAT portion on 2394. So we use our equation, 2394 multiplied by 14 over 114. So we'll do that on the calculator. 2394 multiplied by 14 divided by 114. That gives us 294 Rand. So we know that that was our VAT output portion. Then our sales will be the amount 2394, which includes VAT, minus the VAT portion, which gives us the value of 2,100 Rand. So now we have all our ledger accounts and the amounts, and now we can just enter that into the cash receipts journal. So let's do that. So this was on the first day. The details is cash, because this was cash we received for either services rendered or for a product that we sold, to the amount of 2394. Our sales account we worked out was to the amount of 2,100, and then of course we determined that this was VAT output to the value of 294. Then on the 2nd of the month, we received a check. So we received a check from Mr. Teacup to the value of 5988. Then we granted discount to this client, Mr. Teacup, to the amount of 342 Rand. So let's identify the ledger account that we are dealing with. We know we received a check, which immediately tells us that this is dealing with our bank account. This was a check from a Mr. Teacup, which generally tells us that this was a debtor who was settling his account, or at least in part settling some of his account. Then of course there was discount granted, so we know that this would be dealing with the discount ledger account. And then of course we need to determine which VAT we are affecting and that portion. So we can immediately write the amount of 5988 into our bank account, because that is the money that we physically received into the bank. Then we need to work out what was the original amount that the debtor owed, because of course he owed us more money than 5988. We granted him a discount on the payment of the amount that was due. So the discount was 342, and then the debtor's account would originally have been the money that we received, 5988 plus 342. So that then leaves us with 6330. Then when the sale occurred originally to the value of 6330, we didn't receive cash for this money, but because the sale occurred, we added value to the sale to the amount of 6330. So we then, because we added value, we were liable for the VAT output portion of 6330. But now we need to reverse some of that VAT output, because we only want to pay VAT on the amount that we actually received for 5988. So how do we reverse VAT output? Is of course by claiming VAT input. So the input portion of the VAT, we need to work out on the difference between the amount received and the initial amount, the initial debt that was incurred by Mr. T Cup. So we then say the VAT portion on the discount was 342 multiplied by 14 over 114. So that says 342 multiplied by 14 divided by 114. That gives us the amount of 42 Rand. So there we have all our amounts. All that we have to do now is add that into our cash receipts journal. So the transaction happened on the 2nd of the month. Because this was a debtor, the details will be the name of the debtor, which was Mr. T Cup. In the bank, we received the amount of 5988. Our debtors account was originally 6330. And then, of course, we granted a discount of 342, which is in effect an expense because it's money that we're losing. And then the VAT input that was reversed was, of course, to the amount of 42 Rand, which is also, because it's part of the discount portion, we'll also put those in brackets. So let's have a look at our final transaction in the cash receipts journal. So here once again we received rent income to the amount of 3876. So because we received an amount, we once again know that we are dealing with the bank account. This was rent income, and rent income in our cash receipts journal is a sundries account. And then, of course, we need to determine which VAT we need to determine, and then what the VAT portion is. So we can immediately write into the bank account the value of 3876, because that is, of course, the physical amount of money that we received into the bank account. Our VAT amount, we need to figure out, was this VAT input or was this VAT output? So because we were rendering a service, we were adding value to the service of somebody renting a building from us. So because we are adding the value, this is of course VAT output, and the VAT output is on the amount of 3876. So we'll multiply that with our formula. So 3876 multiplied by 14 divided by 114. And that says that the VAT portion was 476 Rand. Our rent income, the amount that we need to fill in, is of course the amount excluding VAT. So this will be 3876 minus 476. And that then leaves us with the amount of 3,400. So let's write that into our cash receipts journal. So the transaction happened on the 4th of the month. This was for rent income. The amount was 3876 that we received into the bank account. Then, because this was, of course, a rent income, we'll add this under the sundries accounts to the amount of 3,400. And then we determined that this was VAT output, and that portion was 476.